We're already starting to see some of the effects of the cuts, but I think we need to bear in mind that it's really the tip of the iceberg, because the government is still very much working out where most of its cuts are going to fall. The different departments are working out where 40% cuts may be achieved. Local councils are working out how their budgets are going to be affected by the cuts being passed on down to them. And so whilst we've got a few initial examples of things that are being cut or are about to be cut, it really is just the start. And so everything we talk about in terms of the implications for people, for the wider economy, and the political implications, I imagine are going to exacerbate, and we need to bear that in mind as we have the discussions. As we know from many reports and confirmed in the newspapers today, it's clearly the poorest people in society who are going to be affected most by cuts and who are already being affected. And even though people haven't seen what the full effects are going to be, exactly what services are going to be cut, I think they're clearly aware of who's going to be most affected. For example, it's clear that benefits being frozen is going to have a severe impact on low-income families. It's clear that the connection service being cut in many parts of the country is going to make it harder for people to get into work, especially with all the job losses that are related to the cuts. We're seeing plans for affordable housing already being cancelled in many parts of the country, and of course as Greens, as well as protecting council housing, we want to see more affordable housing association homes within new developments, and the money that had been there for that it was mainly social housing that was still being built even after the recession, that's now being taken away, even though it was good for creating jobs and tackling council house waiting lists. We're seeing an impact on public transport because with cuts being passed down to local councils, most councils are inevitably cutting their spend on road safety measures, on bus subsidies, on cycle lanes, rather than cutting road building, even though that's more expensive, and the alternative which Green councillors are arguing for around the country, if that is what most councils are doing. We're seeing the national government cut back on environmental agency spending, as I mentioned earlier in my speech, that even where there's a long-term financial saving to be made, as well as carbon saving through, for example, the work of the Sustainable Development Commission, that those cuts are still being made. So it's short-termism in economic as well as environmental terms, and we need to make those arguments clear to show we're thinking long-term financially as well as environmentally.